Crafting Sparrow Podcast. My name is Amanda, and this is kind of like my monthly podcast that I do just to talk about my knitting and other crafts, sometimes crochet, cross-stitch sewing. Well, not sewing yet, but hopefully someday. So yeah, I hope you guys are having a wonderful day, and it's kind of a nice, sunny but cold Sunday morning here. So yeah, I'm ready to get cozy. I've got my morning coffee, and let's get talking about some crafting. Actually, first, I wanted to do a little bit of admin stuff. I've got some really exciting news, actually. I started streaming on Twitch again, but this time I'm actually streaming me knitting. And so you guys can pop in. Lucy, I'm trying to do something. Okay. Come on. Come on. Okay. Anyway. Yeah, so you can go on there. I will usually be streaming on Saturday mornings, and not every Saturday morning, just when I'm not podcasting or if I don't have anything else going on. Lucy. Rude. Anyway, I will be knitting on there, crafting, crocheting, whatever I'm doing, working on at that time. So yeah, you can pop in there and come talk to me, ask me questions, or just hang out and have it playing in the background while I knit up some stuff. I'll have my Twitch username in the description box below, and I will probably try to give a couple days notice when I will be streaming on Saturdays on my Instagram, which is also linked down below. It's the Crafting Sparrow again on Instagram. So yeah, that's kind of like the admin stuff this morning. I do have a Ravelry that'll also be linked below, but I don't really use it for social purposes, just to buy patterns. But yeah, if you guys want to go ahead and get started, let's get this going. I've done that intro 7 times, and we'll just we'll leave that be. Okay, so my finished objects is of course what I'm wearing. This is the Twig Sweater. Let me go and find all the stuff about it. So yeah, this is the Twigs. And it's by Junko Okamoto. I'm using Knitpicks palette. The main color, the black, is Asphalt Heather, and contrast color 1, which I think is the lighter colored one, is Oyster Heather, and contrast color 2, yeah, the darker color is contrast color 2. It's kind of a funny story, and I'll get into it in a minute, but it was supposed to be Oregon Coast Heather, and I had a little mishap, and ended up using that and another one, but again, I'll get into it in a second. The needles I used is actually another funny story. Honestly, this entire sweater is just a cluster of messes and headaches. And it's not because of the pattern design, it's because of me. Lucy? Why? Okay. So yeah, I was supposed to use, the pattern called for a very small needle size, and I think I got into it in my last podcast that I didn't have the small enough needle size in my bamboo, so I ended up using some of my Haya Sharp metal needles, which are fixed. They're not interchangeable circular. So yeah, I tried using the metal ones for the yoke part. I think I used them up to this motif right here, this bottom one, wherever the sleeves split. Yeah. Oh god, which way is which? Okay, it's this one right here. I used them all the way up to here. And then when I split for the sleeves, I realized that I do not want to use magic loop if I don't have to for color work. I've done it before, it's not that bad, but if I can use circular, that's best for me. Just like the smaller circulars. So when I got to the yoke and split for the sleeves, I actually switched from the 2.75 millimeter metal high needles to my, hold on. This is where I keep all my knitting needles. Anyway, I switched to my smallest Takumi Clover bamboo, which is a 3.25. So I actually switched needle sizes from a 2.75 to a 3.25. That's a fairly big difference to just switch, and then from metal to bamboo. But honestly, you can't even notice like the difference. This is a completely different needle than from up here. And also, I continue to use the bamboo on my body down here. So, just a little lesson learned. If you feel like you want to switch needles, like, and it's a drastic change, I mean, obviously from like 2.75 to like 5 millimeters would be way too big of a difference, but you know, within reason. Don't be scared to change it. I don't really think it matters that much. I mean, it probably matters, like, especially if you're trying to meet gauge exactly and like follow the pattern exactly, but you will know in a second that that is not what I did for this sweater. I kind of was just winging it for most of it. So yeah, I switched needle sizes pretty drastically, pretty much halfway through. Turned out okay. But that wasn't my only headache for this sweater. Like I mentioned with the contrast color too, when I was working on the yoke, I was using not Oregon Coast Heather like I was planning on using it. I had grabbed what I thought was Oregon Coast Heather out of my scrap, like I got a big crate with like balled up scrap yarn. I had grabbed what I thought was Oregon Coast Heather out of there, and turns out it was actually the color, don't remember the name, but it was what I used for my Maed cardigan. So, not the same color. I mean, they're relatively close, so you probably can't even really tell that they're two different colors from, like, this angle. But, like, this motif right here is a different shade from this one. Yeah, you can't really tell, but they are different, and I know they're different. So yeah, I was knitting on like the sleeve or something. Maybe it was even when I got to the bottom. No, it was the sleeve for sure. The first sleeve. I started knitting and I was like, wait a minute. This is like super close to my Maed cardigan color, because I was wearing my Maed cardigan at the moment. And I was comparing and I was like, these are not supposed to be the same color. They were, yeah. So anyway, I ended up just deciding to switch to what I was supposed to use, even though it was not gonna match exactly. And that's mostly because I didn't think I was gonna have enough yarn of the. I wish I would have taken a note of what the color was, but not Oregon Coast Heather. I didn't think I had enough of it, so I just switched. I didn't think there was enough of a difference to make it, you know, noticeable. It actually kind of looks like there's a gradient to it. Like it went from a lighter to a darker. It kind of works. Or that's just me coming up with excuses. Probably both. So anyway, yeah, there's two modifications to the pattern. The needle size changing and the colors not exactly working out like it says to. And also I switched around the motifs a bunch, and like where the sleeves are and everything like that. This is basically a different sweater with the same motifs. I followed it pretty much to a T for the size I picked, like throughout the yoke, except the yoke didn't stop right here. The yoke actually kept going to, I believe, right here. And because my gauge was so off, I was like, this is gonna be a huge, like, the underarm was gonna come down to here. And I didn't like that. So I cut off for the sleeves when I ended this detail here. And so that's a different thing about the sweater that I didn't follow, or a modification I should say. What else? The sleeves are entirely different. So the sleeve details actually pick up, I think right here. So this is where the first detail I would have done if I would have split for the sleeves and bodies stitches. If I would have split them when it told me to, it would have started right here. So all I did was, these two were supposed to be in the yoke, so I just started with this when I started my sleeve. Which does mean that I ended up cutting out one of the details entirely for the sleeve. So there's one less detail in it. I think it was a fairly big chart. And now that I like hold up my arm with it finished, I probably could have fit it in there. Because the sleeves are just a little bit short, but I don't really mind them being this length because that means that I don't have to like push them up when I'm like washing my hands or something like that. I don't want my sleeves to get wet. So it kind of worked out. I don't really mind like the shorter length sleeves sometimes. So the decrease rate for the sleeves, I had to do a bunch of math for because like there's a certain multiple you have to have your stitches in for the charts to repeat exactly. So I had to like fiddle with how many stitches I had and like how fast I decreased between the details, like in these little black spaces without the color work. That's where I decrease. And I had some places where I was decreasing like 2 times in like 2 rounds in a row. And what that does with knitting is actually like does a significant like puckering almost. I wouldn't even call it puckering. It's just a lot less smooth of a transition when you alternate from decreasing to regular knitting, a decrease row again or whatever. But I did end up having to do some like decrease, like knit 3, decrease kind of thing, just to get those chart numbers right. And sorry, I was just making sure I was recording. I feel like this podcast is gonna be a mess today. I have so much to talk about this sweater specifically. So yeah, so the sleeves, when I got done with them, I was actually very discouraged by the sweater, but I just didn't have like the mental space to rip it back and start again. So I was like, I'm just gonna go with it. It's Knitpicks palette is not that expensive of a yarn. I really just cast on this sweater so that I can make a sweater. I didn't think it was gonna be something that like I like went to wear a lot. I thought it was just something that I kind of just wanted to make a sweater, you know. It's like an impulse make. So I wasn't super attached to it. So yeah, I just finished the sweater. I had all my notes written down in my journal. I copied the other sweater, or I said sweater, I meant sleeve. I finished the sleeve, wrote down everything I did the other sleeve, and then all I had left to do was the rest of the body. And at that point, that's when I switched over to my next finished object, just sweater number 18. Anyway, I'll get to that. But yeah, I picked the sweater back up after I finished that one, finished the body. Again, I took out like an entire chart just so that it would be the right size. But I think I like it. You can't even, like, if you don't know the pattern, you wouldn't know that I took anything out. Here, I'll move my chair so you can see better. I like it. Sorry, the lighting's a bit meh. It's early morning and I don't get much sunlight in my living room, except for this window right here, and it all goes that way. Anyway, I like this sweater. I ended up loving it. I like how it fits. The sleeves aren't as weirdly shaped as I thought they would be. After you block it, it's just like, it's a game changer after you block it. Yeah, so my advice for knitting this sweater, what I take away from this is it's okay to go off of the pattern. I kind of already knew that, but this was to the extreme. Just make sure that you are willing to do math, you're willing to experiment with like shaping and stuff like that, and block. Steam block, wet block, whatever you do. I steam block personally. Because that makes a huge difference. Like, I wish I would have taken before and after pictures of this sweater, because the sleeves, you can't really tell now. You can see that it does a very drastic decrease right here, which I like because it hugs my arm better. But there was like, it was almost like, it was just janky. It was like, it went up and then like it went flat, and then it went up again and then flat, up again and then flat. I mean, not that drastic, but it was, you could notice it. So yeah, I was really worried when I finished the sleeves. I was like, that looks so stupid. But when I steam blocked it, you can't, it's very smooth. I don't know if, you can't really even tell, like at the bottom where I, oh, it's right here. where the row starts and ends. You can't really even tell. They did a pretty good job. Like the rows with because some of the charts I had to change a little bit for the decreases. I think I had to put a decrease into the color work here and like up here maybe. Anyway, I'm proud of myself. I was not proud of myself in the process, but yeah, so that's the Twig Sweater. Oh, I also wanted to talk about just like needle material, like metal versus bamboo. I do not like knitting with metal or with metal needles or at least with color work, I should say, because I do use them when I make socks, and that's fine. But when I was doing the yoke with the metal needles, it was like this one looks good, but you can't really tell very much, but like the color wasn't popping as much. And I think that my tension was just all over the place with metal needles, and like the stitches were slipping off, and that made it really difficult for me to have consistency. There were some loops that were like super like loose and some that were like super tight, and I do not have that problem with bamboo needles like at all. I'm very consistent with my tension with bamboo needles, and that's another reason why I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna switch. If the gauge is different, the gauge is different. But as I mentioned, it ended up being okay anyway. So yeah, I'm just curious, like, does anybody else have that problem when they're doing color work and metal needles? Is your tension like all over the place, or is that just like what you've always used, so you're used to it? I'm curious. I don't know, I feel like the metal is just like super slippery, so it's really difficult to get that tension. And I do use, like, I know about like dominant color. You hold your dominant, I'm a continental knitter, so I hold both of my strands on my finger. My dominant color's on the left side of the two strands, and then my recessive color, I guess you would call it, is on the right side. So like it should have been popping, but it wasn't. I know it was because of my tension. Never again, never again will I do color work, at least on a big object, with metal needles. Never. If you see me on Instagram, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do this project with metal needles and it's color work, then you just DM me and be like, don't do it. Don't do it, Amanda. You guys need to hold me accountable. So I think that's all I've got to say about my Twig sweater. I do love it. I love it so much. I wore it the day after I finished steam blocking it to work because it's a wonderful sweater. I brag about Knitpicks palette all the time because it's a great yarn. It kept me so warm that day at work. Like I wasn't wearing like a shirt or anything underneath it. Like this was what I was wearing. And I didn't need to bring like an overcoat or anything. Like, and it was cold that day. Like we had a winter storm-ish thing come through, and this past weekend, so it was getting very, very cold at that point. Excuse me. So yeah, Knitpicks palette. Try it out. It's wonderful. And I'm not like sponsored by them or anything. I just love them. It does pill after a while, but I mean, there's deep pillars. I just ordered a deep pillar the other day, and I'm excited to try it out because I wear my cardigan, which is Knitpicks palette, all the time, like around the house. I don't really wear it out much for various reasons, but I do wear it around the house like all the time, and so it's got pills all over it. I'm excited to try out the deep pillar on it. But the yarn is very soft. I mean, it's 100% wool, so it's just like a teeny bit scratchy, but it's not as scratchy as you would think it would be. Anyway, yeah. This is the Twig Sweater by Junko Okamoto, and that's that. I can't believe, I feel like I was talking for more than like 15 minutes on that sweater. Time is weird. Okay, so for my next finished object, I've got sweater number 18 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. Ta-da! It's a little bit wrinkly because it's been in my closet. And I will go and try this on so you can see what it looks like on, but I'm going to talk about it first. This was made out of Drops Air. It's a unicolor sage green. Sorry, it's just so squishy. I talked about this yarn a lot on my last podcast. I got it for Christmas. And it's one of those yarns that you can't stop. You can't stop petting it. It is one of those like blown yarns with the material. It's blank. I'm blanking on like what it's made out of. It's like wool, and it's got I think it's got some plastic in it because it's blown. But it's very soft. And I used the 4.5 millimeter for the body, and then the ribbing I did a 4 millimeter. And I think, I went down a needle size for the body. So the pattern recommends 5 millimeter for the body. I went down one. And that was mostly because I pretty much made gauge for this because I did swatch. I did make gauge, but it was just a little bit off. And also it calls for held together with like a lace, like a mohair or anything similar of your choice. And I didn't have that. I just did drops air. And so I wanted it to be just a little bit denser as well as matching gauge just a little bit more. Like it would have been fine if I hadn't went down, but just like for the fabric, I wanted it to be just a little bit denser. So yeah, that's the needle size. I did the size medium. I wrote down, technically I should have made the large given the bust circumference and stuff like that, but I didn't want it to be like way oversized because the pattern is meant to be like a boxy oversized sweater. Which is funny because I said that I went down a needle size because I didn't want it to be too big, but it still ended up being bigger than I wanted it to be. And like I said, I swatched. I'm not sure what happened. Maybe my gauge changed like during it, but it still turns out cute. I like it. Let's see what else I have. Oh, I did the elastic band in the neck. This is a folded over collar, and I had some elastic in my crafting stuff for a sewn high-waisted like elastic skirt that I'm planning on making that I have been putting off for a while. So I just took that elastic and put it in here, and I got that idea from, her name's blanking on me. She has the Well Loved Knits podcast. I can't remember her name. I'm probably gonna put it down in the screen. My cats are fighting. You guys. Anyway, yeah, but her from the Well Loved Knits podcast, she actually showed her doing the same thing where she had a already folded over, sewn down, or knitted down collar, and she just inserted an elastic band like through the stitches and sewed it down with her sewing machine, and then just like tucked it back in, and like when she weaved in her ends, what I did was I weaved in my ends at the end and kind of like tightened that section where I inserted the elastic band. And it's a game changer for this sweater. Before I put the elastic band into this, the neckband was, while it wasn't like boat neck, like all the way out here, the double brim, the folded over collar was just kind of floppy-ish. And I don't know if it was because of the yarn or what, I don't know what it was, but I didn't really like it. So then I remembered her tutorial on, it wasn't even really a tutorial, it was more just like she was showing it. And I saw that and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna try that. So it turned out really good. And when I try that on the sweater, you'll see, you see what it's like. Although it is, you have to like stretch it over your head. So like I have to take my glasses off and everything when I put the sweater on. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna go put this on and then I'll show you what it looks like. Ta-da! Oh, it's so cozy. Here. So what I was talking about before is that it's just a little bit too baggy for me. Like I love oversized stuff, but there is a lot of fabric right here, and I wish I would have went down another size and maybe, or even just altered it to be less fabric-y. It doesn't have like short rows or anything. The neck shaping is in this seam right here. It's drop shoulder. So I picked up the sleeves for I picked up the stitches for the sleeves. Also, when I was picking up stitches for the sleeves, I wasn't sure, like the what am I trying to say here? You know how with drop shoulder you have like the top of the shoulder, and then you have like the front and back panel, they kind of don't meet up where the arm goes, and then they meet up underneath the arm. That like gap for the sleeve was a lot deeper than I was thinking would work, but I went with it anyway. And it turned out okay, but I think that might be one of the problems that I have with it, is that it's just the sleeves are too open. Like the sleeve gap where you pick up a sleeve, it's just too open. But once I picked up the stitches, it did close it in a little bit because I didn't pick up every single stitch. I skipped a few. But yeah. So what else do I have to say about this? I love the pattern like detailing, like just the mixtures of purling and knitting, and it's knit flat for this part. Obviously it's drop shoulder, and then it's knitting around for the body. It's really cool and interesting just to like did I even say, yeah, it's my favorite knitwear. She made it to where you could follow a chart, but also she had literally line by line what you do. And I'm the kind of person, like, I like charts for color work, but if it's something like this, I like to go line by line and just like cross out where I'm at, like on paper. It's just a lot easier for me. And I can like write notes down if I need to. So yeah, like the pattern repeat is so fun and addictive because you just want to like just get done with the repeat. And actually it's kind of interesting, like when I looked at the sweater, I thought it was a fairly consistent, like this detail where it's like ribbing and knitting, and there's like this purl row. I thought that it was just like this repeated over and over again, like at first glance, but it's actually a lot more complicated than that. Like I can't tell you what the repeat is because I don't know what the repeat is. I just followed line by line. I don't know, it's like magic, honestly. It turned out so nice though. I did have to alter the sleeve decreasing rate. I have had to do that with every sweater. I don't know if I'm just like picky about how the sleeves feel, or like how fast they decrease. I don't know. I ended up changing it to, did I write down? I have, guys. Oh, sorry about that. Trying to see if I wrote down. I did not write down how many times I decreased, like what my decrease rate was. I just wrote finished sleeve, did some major mods. That's good note taking. Wait. Yeah, no, I didn't write it down. It doesn't matter. Oh well. I just didn't do it the same way the pattern did. It was just gonna be too long. And also, I knew that I was gonna have to like seriously consider like how the fabric needed to stretch when it was done, because of the nature of the pattern. It's almost like a ribbed pattern with especially with the sleeves. Just like when you're having purl sections, it like scrunches it up a little bit, like ribbing does. And so I didn't want the sleeve to be as long as it was saying it was going to be with my gauge and everything. And then it stretched even further because of like, you know, blocking and stuff. So yeah, I modified the sleeves pretty heavily. Which was a lot easier than the Twig Sweater because there was no color work to worry about. And I could do it like a lot more consistent. What else do I have to say? I had almost 2 balls of Drops Air left over. And I think I'm gonna make a shawl out of it. I don't know. I saw, hold on, let me see. In my favorites I have, so there's a shawl called Pine Lake Shawl. It's on Ravelry. You can search that. I'll probably have a description of it down below. I put everything that I show you, and sometimes like if I mention something I'm gonna make, I'll put it down in the description below. I have a link to the Ravelry page and everything. Anyway, the Pine Lake Shawl, I looked at like how much yarn you would need for it, and I think that I have enough of that drops air to make it, and it's just like a really simple, like smaller shawl. So I'm probably gonna end up trying to make that. But anyway, trying to think if I had anything else to say about this. It's comfy. It's soft. It's not exactly something that you wear by itself if it's cold though, because the wind just goes straight through it, which is ironic because it's called drops air. Oh my god. Yeah, so I usually wear it with like a long sleeve underneath it if it's cold outside. Now it's gonna be nice in the spring when I can wear just this, and like if it's warmer outside, wherever breeze comes through, it'll cool me down. You know, I think it'll be really nice for the springtime. Yep. Which is actually what I had in mind when I was picking out a sweater to make with this yarn, because the color not the sweater pattern, but like the one I was looking for, like a yarn to buy for Christmas for myself. Well, my husband bought it for me, but I picked it out. Anyway, the color I chose was supposed to be very like pastel spring, like esque. I'm a mess. Okay, yeah, so happy that it'll work out in the springtime. Every time I talk about like a sweater, I'm just like racking my brain. Like I don't want to leave anything out, because like as I'm making stuff, I'm like, oh, I need to talk to people about this, I need to mention this, and then when I actually sit down and podcast, I like leave half of it out. And that's why I take notes, but apparently I don't take good enough notes. Yeah, that's all that I had to say about that. Okay. Oh, I was about to say we're done with finished objects, but we are not, because I got a crochet section this week, or this month, whatever, this podcast, and it is my scrap blanket. So I mentioned this blanket on my first podcast a while back. It was a long-term thing that I had planned. I've had this thing on, I guess you can't say on the needles because it's crochet. I've had this thing on my whips pile since I basically started crocheting like a year and a half ago. And it's just something that I added a row to every now and then. It was a really good scrap buster project, my first scrap buster project. But I was gonna make it to fit like my queen size bed. But I went to do a scrap project the other day, and I'm just done with this project. I'm just so tired of working on it. And partly it's probably because I'm not as much of a crocheter as I used to be. Knitting has taken over my hobbies. And so, yeah, I was like, you know what? This is a pretty decent size. I'll show you size in a second here. And I was like, you know what? Let's just put a border on this thing. Let's just weave in the ends. Let's call it done. And I did. So I took like an acrylic yarn that had just, again, scrap yarn, this gold color. And I just did, I went one time around, and then I did a round of single crochet on top of that. Maybe another one, I can't remember. Let me see the corner. One. Yeah, I did one time around and then another one. And if you've never done like corners on a blanket with crochet, you usually have to do like 2 or 3 stitches on the corner stitch so that it rounds, instead of like puckering in like it would if you didn't. It would be like cutting corners almost. Anyway, this isn't a crochet tutorial. So yeah, I'll show you guys. Let me back up my chair. It's just granny stripes. Oh boy, it is very see-through. Yeah, I can't show you everything on this. It won't fit in here. Let me fold it. Ta-da! I think it's a 9mm hook for all of them. Like, even the very tiny fingering weight yarn, I used the 9mm hook. And, like, I used really, really chunky yarn, which probably could have used an even bigger crochet hook, but I didn't care. I just used one crochet hook for the whole thing. I'm not really a fan of the fabric. I know it's a scrap busting project, so I'm not, like, super bothered because I didn't spend any money on it. I don't really like granny stripes with what I did. Like, a granny stripe blanket is really nice if you use the right size yarn and the right size hook with like a consistent yarn type instead of like fingering weight all the way up to super bulky. But that's my scrap blanket. This is made for me. My husband likes using it for taking naps on the couch, so it's getting used. But I'm really happy to just like put this out there and on the couch and just let people use it if they want. It's not something that I go back to and work on anymore, and that makes me happy. And like I said, didn't cost a thing, so that's pretty cool. Oh, that didn't go where I wanted it to. Okay. So that is all of my finished objects for this podcast, which leads us into works in progress, or WIPs. This first one I am super excited about. It is the Bonnie Cardigan by Tête, Bêche. I think it's Orlane is her Instagram name. I'll have, again, all the description box below. I've actually done a pattern by her before, and it was my first color work pattern ever. It was the Azure sweater. And maybe one day I'll show like all my past knits on a podcast. But I love that sweater. So when I found out that this cardigan was from her, I was like instantly like excited because I know that she does really good patterns. Yeah, it's the Bonnie cardigan. And here it is. I cast it on January 18th, and today is January 23rd, and I'm almost done with it. I finished the sleeves yesterday, and I'm working on the bottom hem, and then all I have left to do is the collar and like the button band. This isn't really a good representation of it. I'll try it on for you guys, but let me get into the details of it first. I made this with Simply Alpaca. Here. Surprise, surprise, Knitpicks. Yep. Let me get a zoom in of it. Hold on. Because it's really lovely yarn. Doo-doo-doo. And this is, God, that lighting is awful. Sorry, guys. That's what I got. Simply Alpaca is a superfine, it's 100% superfine alpaca. Actually, I just now realized the Azure sweater from the same designer, I also used alpaca yarn for that. And it's not something like I gravitate towards. I love alpaca, but I rarely buy it. But yeah, this is also alpaca. This is the colorway Alton. It's just, I don't know if it was actually dyed or not, because it's like a very neutral, like natural color. I don't know, maybe it was. But it's Ecotex, which is like Knitpicks. I don't know actually know what that means, but I think it's something like ecologically friendly somehow. I don't know. I should probably look into that. But it's really soft. It's Aran weight. And I used the recommended needle size. I did gauge, everything matched up perfectly with it. It's US 8 or 5mm for the body, and then a US 6 4mm for the ribbing. Using my Takumi Clover bamboo interchangeable needles. I did size 2 on this, and I've actually got a lot to talk about with sizing today. So almost every single sweater that I have made, I've had an excess amount of yarn left over. I've had, most of them are oversized, which I like, but I've never actually committed to picking my correct size, like my bust measurement, and everything. Like, I just kind of, it's like a comfort thing, not only because it's oversized and it's comfy, you know, like just baggy comfy, but also it's a comfort thing in that I don't have to worry about it being too small when I finish. But this time, after making this and it being so, you know, big, I was like, you know what, I'm going to commit to actually making something that fits me. And that's what I did. I said size 2. I have followed the pattern exactly. I have not made a single alteration, which is not common for me. Usually I get kind of skittish about things not being right, not on the pattern's part, more on my part, like making a mistake or something. And so I like overcompensate or something. I don't know what it is, but that's what happens. But I haven't changed a single thing about this. The pattern is perfect. It's not finished yet, obviously, but I was trying it on, like the sleeves fit perfectly. I did add some length to the body, but that's not technically changing the pattern because it says or knit until desired length, you know. So yeah, I will try this on for you guys. I'm probably gonna switch back into my Twig sweater because this can fit over that. So I'll be right back. Okay. So yeah, let me try this on for you guys. It is a fairly see-through fabric, but I'm okay with that because it's a cardigan. It's not something that you're gonna wear on its own. So again, the button band has not been made yet. You know what? I don't like the sweater underneath it because it's kind of bat wing and it's not showing exactly it fitting. So let me go put a t-shirt on. Let me go put a t-shirt on and then I will put this on over it, so I'll be right back. Okay, now let me try it on. This is gonna be an editing mess. All right. Anyway, it's like kind of fiddly right now because this actually goes out all the way out here because it doesn't have the ribbing on it, it curls in. So, but anyway, what I wanted to show you guys is how fitted the sleeves are. The lighting's not focusing on my arm. Anyway, the sleeves are really fitted. A lot more fitted than I've ever made. And again, I did it exactly how the pattern called, so I was really happy with that. And then also the sleeve, or the bottom hem. Is it gonna focus on me? So it's split in the back. The lighting is terrible. Okay, so yeah, I've only done half of the ribbing. The other half I'm gonna do after this podcast probably. And then it's gonna have a button band that goes all the way up, and then the collar as well. But it's so soft and cozy. I love it. I love it so much. This episode was very involved. And it's not even over. I think I'm gonna put my Twig sweater back on, actually. Just over this, though. I'm not going anywhere this time. Let me make sure my stitches didn't just come off. Thank the Lord for the needle stoppers. They have saved my life many times, although they have failed before as well. Okay, put the sweater back on. Burp, burp, and bop. Okay. So that's my current work in progress for like for those of you who've been here for a while, you know that I'm my elbow. You know that I am mostly a monogamous knitter. I do sometimes, like for instance the Twig, I stopped and picked up sweater number 18. I do sometimes like to do things, I like to do smaller things usually while I'm knitting like a big garment, like a sweater or cardigan or shawl. So yeah, what was I saying about that? Oh, this is my like one thing I'm making right now. Except for I do have a new scrap project that I'm super excited about. This is actually one that a lot of you probably have heard about before. My coffee's gone cold. Yeah, that's cold. No. Okay. Anyway, so you guys have probably heard this before. It's called the Beekeeper's Quilt, and unlike the name suggests, it is not a sewing project like a quilt. It is a knitting scrap blanket project, and it is basically, I've got my bucket here of little tiny, what they call hexapuffs. It's just like knitted hexagons, like little pillows, and they're so fun. I love them. I have Brogan from the Woolly Witchcraft podcast to thank for this. I have seen this project before. Like, I had actually, when I first started like crafting and I was on Ravelry, I saw it and I thought it was super cute. It was like a huge commitment, and I wasn't really comfortable with knitting yet. So I just kind of put it on the back burner. But when I saw Brogan committing to it, I was like, those little pillows are so cute. I want to make one. And at the same time, I was tired of my crochet scrap blanket, so it was kind of perfect. The only thing about this that is different than my other scrap blanket that I just finished is that this, you kind of have to commit to one yarn weight. But it actually is perfect because I've grown a lot more like scrap blankets over the years, or I mean, I've only been knitting for like a year and a half, but I've accumulated a lot more like same weight yarns than when I started. So I have enough fingering sports-ish weight yarn to commit to this, I think. I've already made, I'm not going to count them, but I'd say probably around 20, maybe. So yeah, I bought the pattern and it's super fun. Like after the first hexagon, I never had to look at the pattern again. Like, it's so easy to remember. So yeah, I've been having fun making this. I think it said that like around 400 is usually, like a little under 400 hexapuffs is what you need for a standard blanket. I think maybe it was a throw. I don't remember what the pattern said it would make. And I also plan on, because when you put them together, say that there's like a bunch coming off this way, and this is the edge of the blanket, there's like these bumps here. I do plan on making half hexagons, so I would stop. I'm just now realizing that what I was planning may not work. I discover things when I record my podcasts. Just, never mind. Forget everything I just said about my plans for the edge of them. That's not going to work out like I thought it is. Anyway, now my brain is scattered because I'm like thinking about what I can do for the edge being bumpy, but I will think about that while I'm not recording. But yeah, I've been having a lot of fun. I've got a bunch of yarn I'm going to go through. You know what I really like about it is that I'm making stuff with yarn that I've used on old projects. So like, I have a story for each one of these. You know, this was for my Azor sweater that I mentioned. This is the Alpaca. This was a knit crate yarn that I made a ranunculus out of. This was a linen cotton yarn for Lindy chain from Knitpicks that I made a really nice like summer top out of last year. Like, I could go on and on. This was from a commission that I got. It was my first commission from a friend. I made her a sweater out of this yarn. So it's just like really sentimental. I love it. And then also something really cool is I'm stuffing them with scrap yarn. So I am taking, like, when I weave in my ends and then I snip off the excess, I put them in a mason jar, and this was my most recent one. It was up to like right here, and then I started using it for the hexapuffs, and I've still got tons left. And what's really funny is when you make them, you have excess yarn yarn left over, so you snip it and then you just put it right back into it and you use it in the next hexie puff. It's really satisfying. It's like absolutely zero waste project. But then also, this, I have been collecting scraps from like basically day one of crafting, which was in 2019, and this is like packed in, like you can't push it down anymore. So I'm hoping that I will have enough to fill all the hexie puffs. If not, I mean, I knew this was going to be a long-term project anyway, so like if I have to wait till I collect more scrap yarn, like that's perfectly fine. But I just love them. They're so squishy. They're literally just like mini pillows. Squish. Right, so that is my other work in progress. I don't have any more works in progress. I do have some future plans and acquisitions. If that's not your thing, you can hop on out here. I will talk a little bit about like my life stuff afterwards, but you know, that's not your cup of tea. I totally understand. Thank you for watching if you're heading out. But for those of you who are staying, I have, shocker, more Knitpicks yarn. Yeah, this is Knitpicks Stroll. I am going to make the Ripple Brawlette out of, I don't remember who makes it. Hold on. I want to say Jessie made, but I'm not. Yeah, Jessie made designs. I had it. Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna make the Ripple Brawlette out of this. I've seen a lot of people making this, and I think it'll be a really nice thing to be able to just throw on under sweaters, like especially during the springtime. And this is a wool nylon yarn. Yes, wool nylon. So I think it'll be really nice for the Ripple Brawlette. I'm hoping that I have enough. I looked at like the side, like projects that people had done with it, projects that people made with this yarn for that pattern, and like the smaller sizes I think can be done with one. If not, I'll just order more. It doesn't really matter. Yeah, so I'm excited about that. I'll probably cast that on after I finish the Bonnie cardigan. And then that's the only acquisitions that I have. I do have more future plans, and that is, it's just one. I really want to make the pressed flower shawl, like really, really badly. And this is only a recent like craving. I saw somebody posting theirs on Instagram a couple days ago, and I was like, you know what? I want to make that. Sometimes it's that easy. It's just, yep, I like it. I'm gonna make it. I had actually seen this pattern a couple times a while back. I think it was while it was being published, if I'm not mistaken. And I was just like passively was like, oh, that's cute. But like just now I'm like, yeah, I want to make it. I'm primarily a shawl or a sweater maker or cardigan maker, but I do have one shawl that I wear a lot, and that is the Woodlark shawl by Fiber Tales. I think I've probably shown it in the podcast before. I have an eyelash in my eye. I lose my train of thought so easy. What was I saying? Shawls. I have that Woodlark shawl, and yeah, I like it a lot. I wear it a lot. I'm thinking that I just need to find the right shawl patterns, because I have a few others, but I don't ever wear them. Like there's one that was included in a knit crate. Like they come with patterns sometimes, and it was fun to make, and I like the yarn. It's like a Pima cotton yarn. But I never wear that shawl, and I think it's because it's just so gapey. Like I want my shawls to be a very dense fabric, and that pressed flowers is a dense fabric. And I'm also really excited because it uses mosaic knitting, and I have never done mosaic knitting before. It sounds very interesting to me, and I'm excited to learn that. So yeah, I don't know what yarn I'm using for it, but that's part of the fun of the process, is picking out what yarn you want to use. I'm going to try and not use Knitpicks yarn. I kind of want to see if there's any indie designers that have like kits for it or something, so I don't have to think about like which colors to use. Like, do they go good together? Are they two different types of yarn? Are they gonna, like, the fabric's gonna go good together? So yeah, I need to look to see if there's any like indie dyers that have made kits for it. I'm thinking that there probably is because it's a fairly common shawl. Yeah, if you guys know of any like indie dyers who have kits already for the pressed flower shawl, let me know in the comments. I think that it is from, I do not remember the pattern maker for this one. Oh shoot, and I don't have it. Oh no, I gotta search it. I misspelled it. Amy Christoffers. Savory Knitting. That's who it's from. Pressed Flowers. I will have a link down below. You guys know how it is. Yeah. I think that's it, you guys, for the knitting stuff. If you want to stick around and just like craft or hang out while I talk about my life stuff, I don't really have that many things to talk about, honestly. I've mostly just been knitting. I started rewatching Breaking Bad like yesterday. I watched Breaking Bad when I was in like high school, I think, with my brother. That was forever ago, so I don't really remember what happened. So I'm doing that, knitting, and I started playing Civ 6 with my husband, which has been fun. D&D on Thursday nights, the usual stuff. And last time I did my podcast, I mentioned that my husband and I were going to go to the zoo, and we did, and it was super fun. We saw rhinos almost fight. I don't know, we had a lot of fun there. It was a lot more packed than we would have liked. Like in the really dense areas, we had to put our masks on because there was like a bunch of people in like the food area. We didn't eat there. But we mostly enjoyed the botanical gardens that they have over there. We love plants. We both actually went to the same college together. We went to Clemson University. And he was a biology major. I was environmental science major. But we actually had a class that were something that we could both take for our majors. And that was botany, field botany. We took field botany together. It was so much fun. I have so many wonderful memories of that class. We would go out on hikes for our lab section, and it's just like just going on a hike with my husband and learning about plants. So yeah, needless to say, we love plants. We love like IDing them. We've got like field guide books that we have. So we just really enjoy going to botanical gardens and just like looking around. And I'm still learning how to use like a Canon camera, and I've really enjoyed like taking nature pictures, like plants, insects that will let me take pictures of them, mushrooms. There was a knoll lizard that was in the gardens, and he let me get super close to him with the camera, and I got some really good shots of him, and I'll probably have some play at the end of this video. I think I'm also going to try to insert some videos that I took, like the rhinos, because it's a really cool video. But yeah, that was so much fun. And I know that zoos can be kind of depressing sometimes, like especially the penguins. That makes me so sad. But I also know as an environmental like person that conservation and like getting kids to be excited about animals and seeing them in person is so important. So like it's kind of a double-edged sword, I don't know. It's heartbreaking to see them like that, which I think that's another reason why I like the botanical gardens, because it's not like a captivity for anything, it's just nature. But it is still really nice to see animals that you wouldn't normally be able to see. So like I said, it's nice, but it's sad sometimes. Anyway, I didn't mean to get so deep in this part of the section. Yeah, that's what we've been up to, working. We had snow here, and I'm in like the southern Midlands of South Carolina, and I didn't think I'd get snow down here, like at all. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't much, but it was enough to have like white scattered on like the leaf litter and stuff on the ground. And when I woke up, I just like watched the birds on the bird feeder. It was so great. Yeah, I think that's everything, guys. been, oh my god, over an hour. I have to like cut stuff though because I've like left the camera shot, came back with a different sweater on. So, thanks for hanging out. I was really excited to record this time because I had so much like nitty gritty stuff to talk about, and this is where I go to talk about it. Yeah, I think I'm still gonna try and only do this once a month, even though I could probably do it twice a month. But since I'm doing the Twitch streams, I'm gonna try and do Twitch streams on the weekends that I'm not podcasting, and if I'm feeling up to it. Like, I'm not gonna say I'm gonna do it every Saturday that I'm not recording, but I'm gonna try and do it at least 2 times, maybe. I'll keep you guys posted on my Instagram about that. Like I said, I'll have the link to my Twitch page and the link to my Instagram down below. Yeah, I had a lot of fun, guys. Thanks for hanging out, and I hope you guys are staying safe and taking care. Bye! Welcome to the Crafting Sparrow Podcast. I hope this video... Lucy! I'm trying to do something here. Don't stick your tail in my coffee. Okay. Take 3.